1.1. In Unit 1, we're going to lay some of the basic foundations, and even in Unit 2, some of the basic vocabulary foundations for proofwriting and for understanding geometry. So we start with some of Euclid's first terms. Euclid is a mathematician who helped us to define the geometry that we use predominantly, although there are more than one types of geometry, and we'll talk about that in class. So 1.1, understanding points, lines, and planes. The learning targets are that you will be able to identify, name correctly, and draw lines, segments, rays, and points. Learning target 2, that you'll be able to apply facts about points, lines, and planes. In geometry, we have undefined terms. And these are terms that have no definite size or no definitive size. So Euclid struggled with this a little bit, but he was able to resolve it by calling them the undefined terms. It sounds a little absurd. We're defining something that's undefined. The three undefined terms, there are three of them in geometry, and they are point, line, and plane. The reason that a point is undefined is because a point names a location in space and has no size. So a point could be as small as the tip of a pin. It could be as large as the period at the end of a sentence. It could be as large as this dot. It could be as big as this circle. It actually could be as large as Commerce, Michigan itself, marking a point on the map on Earth from space. So a point is a point, which is absurd to use it in its own definition, but it's used to name a location in space, and it has no definitive size. That's why it's an undefined term. A line is a straight path that has no definitive thickness, and it extends forever in both directions. So this is a line, and it would extend off my paper and beyond, and this direction. It extends in opposite directions forever. And it has no definitive thickness, so it could be this thin, it could be as thick as this. It could be as thick as the line in the road, or as thick as the edge of the chalkboard, or as thick as the wall in your living room. A line has no definitive thickness or width. Okay, in terms of width, it also thickness as well. The third undefined term is plane. A plane is a flat surface that has no thickness that extends forever. It is two-dimensional. Well, we need to have at least a few points to draw a plane, at least 3, because to draw something that's 2D, if I just give you 2 points, that's linear. I can make a line, but I need at least 3 points to make a shaded area or a two-dimensional space. We normally use a quadrilateral, and particularly rectangles or parallelograms, to represent planes. A plane could be as thin as this sheet of paper right here. It could be as thin as the sheet of paper. It could be as thick as your textbook. It could be as thick as the concrete floor underneath our desks at school. It could be as thick as the desks. So there is no definitive thickness, and it's said to extend forever. So it goes in this direction, and all of these directions infinitely. So a plane has no definitive thickness. We have a couple other vocabulary terms. Collinear. Those of you who are studying Greek and Latin roots or may think of this, you already know what linear means. That means line. On a line, we have linear equations. They form a line. Some of you have jobs, and you have co-workers, people you work with. So this is together on a line. So this is collinear are points on the same line. So collinear means on the same line. So here we have points A and B, and C are collinear. Point D is non-collinear with A, B, and and C. So collinear meaning on the same line, non-collinear meaning not on the same line. So knowing that, then coplanar is pretty easy. Coplanar means on the same plane. So we could have some points. Here's my plane. We'll talk about how to name planes in just a minute. So I have some points that are inside that that two-dimensional drawing, that quadrilateral. So there's A and D and C. And here's point B. Point B is non-coplanar with A, D, and C. So it might be on another plane with A and D or with some of those other points, but it is not on the same plane that A, D, and C are on. It's non-coplanar. So collinear on the same line, non-collinear not on the same line, coplanar on the same plane, non-coplanar not on the same plane. Example 1, naming three lines, naming points, and lines and planes. Okay, so that got out of order. I'd like to go back to the first page because I forgot to talk about that points need to be named with a capital print letter. One capital letter names a point. So this could be point B if we want, and this one could be point P. A line is named with two letters because it takes 2 points to make a line. And it has to be two capital letters, 2 points. And it has the following notation. So if I put 2 points on there, called them AB, that would be line AB. And we put a little line above it, like a hat, on top of the letters to indicate that those letters are referencing a line. Or it could also be represented with a lowercase cursive letter. So I could call this AB or line L if it had a lowercase cursive letter next to it. A plane, since it's a two-dimensional surface, needs to have at least 3 points. So it has to be 3, and they can't be on the same line, because if I have 3 points that are on the same line, that doesn't actually give me a two-dimensional surface. So it has to be named by three non-collinear points. So in this case, I could call this one plane ABD. Now, we either use 3 non-collinear points or we use a capital cursive letter. So this plane over here, I could have put a capital cursive W in, and then I would call it plane W. We do need to include the word plane when we're naming a plane. The only time we need to include the word line is if we're naming it with a lowercase cursive letter. You'll see this notation used a lot. Make sure you know how to name a point versus a line, 2 ways to name a line versus 2 ways to name a plane. Naming 3 points. Okay, naming lines, points, lines, and planes. We're asked to name 3 points. Okay, they didn't say whether they had to be collinear or non-collinear. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of intersection in the picture. So you could name A, B, and C. You could even name D and E if you want. So you just name them and put a comma between them. Naming 4 coplanar points, 4 points that are on the same plane. Well, the only thing that I see that has 4 coplanar points has 4 sides as well. So A, B, C, and D, and point E is above. If we think of this as a flat surface, point E is above that. It's almost like a pyramid. Those are the base of the pyramid. This is the peak of the pyramid. So points A, B, C, and D are coplanar. This concludes example 1.